from?
Michelle Baker and the chief have moved on to other meetings.
Typical.
And that isn't negotiating in bad faith?
Gallery flag.
Okay.
Yeah, for a new job.
Somebody might have left. I'm not in the bargaining team. All right, did you want to circle back on any of the issues we discussed already? We'll move on to,
No, I just wanna, we left talking about the holiday, but
yeah,
we can go over what's going on. What we need to do, shipping for women.
all right, well, our position on holiday is that it relates to the additional 12 hours of pay for the holiday, whether you work or you don't work. Both categories get additional 12 hours. It's characterizing those hours as sweat time, it's our issue. We don't want to characterize it as sweat time. I will tell you that if we could reach agreement on the bigger package, which includes the wages, the 2912, we might have some flexibility in our position. It would be premature for us to make a commitment or another proposal on it. So, let's hold that one off a little bit. Would like to talk, unless you have another issue you want to talk about before, I've got another one.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Reduction in workforce, 16. This is the matrix issue. Maybe if we break it down a little bit, we could see where we could get it. But if you go to our proposal from 410, I think we can do that, or it's actually the same proposal from the very beginning. There's a category of points under disciplinary action. Let me know when you're ready.
This is your proposal for 513. What site number you're referring to?
Section 3, disciplinary action.
Okay.
I think we should strike the category counseling, because counseling isn't actually discipline. It shouldn't be treated as one. It should be an instructive, productive event. So we would just strike that from our proposal.
That first one,
Just counseling.
You're amending your proposal today to will reflect that counseling is no longer part of your proposal.
Right, because we don't, I don't think it's discipline. It may be a prelude to discipline, but it's not discipline, so therefore it should be one of the points.
This is, you're looking at 513, version 3. Okay.
So your counter proposal on that, essentially the way we read it is really just a seniority system, almost a pure seniority system dressed up in some other language. Can you work with us on the categories that we have in our section 1 and readjust points for each of them and what the value of seniority is?
Can you look at the different progression for performance and disciplinary? Back in 2 and 3, you have quantified a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 points you can take away, but only 2 points you can get. Or 2 minus 2 minus 4. That'd be 1, 2, 3, 4 as well.
That could be.
It's heavy laden in the minus category.
we'd like to get to a point where we could balance. We think performance, you know this, is more important than seniority, but if we get to a point where we could balance seniority and performance, and then deal with discipline as the negatives to that, that could work for us. So, if you want to grab some alternate numbers on that, we'll listen to it.
Versus the numbers on the proposal?
Yeah, because I've already told you what my position is on that.
You have any language in your proposal for 16 that deals with bumping rates?
We could agree to bumping rates. We could agree that somebody that is, in a layoff category could bump down. And that could be cumulative, meaning.
I think the problem that we ran into when we brought this up the last time was, I mean, Barbara had said that if I need to save $1 million, it'd be easy to lay off 4 captains, 5 captains, 10 captains. And to me, that's not, while yes, ours is very laden in seniority and time of service, I think it was a direct response to her comment.
We could agree to have bumping rate. You want them all the way down the chain or just to the next position?
We have to go all the way down the chain because we had a good bump, we have to move as well.
That would work for us if we could get the right balance of numbers of seniority and performance and discipline. We could simplify it and eliminate additional skills and training, just to get it an easier formula to work.
We can talk about how that's just.
I still think we should maintain the veterans' preference aspect of it for other reasons, of course.
I think our proposal is more than enough for what you guys are looking for.
Let's move on to another article. All right, you pick a category that you want to compromise on.
It's not about compromise.
Pick another article.
Well, here's the deal. I think that if we're trying to get a deal, and if the only thing you're concerned about, if I hear, is your pay proposal in drug testing, why don't you just try to package something like that and move forward? You got almost 15, 20 articles still open, and we're far apart on a lot of them.
Pick one you want to talk about. See if we can close the gap.
Let's just put it on the list. See, you can do it. Article 6 is the next one that's still open.
Well, we've got 2 open.
I'm sorry?
We have 2 open.
Well, I think we're already talking about, mostly vehicles.
We are. We don't agree on the number and gave the complete list of the open articles.
Sure, that's one reason I skipped that.
Okay.
I'm
But
sorry.
I agree, we're getting closer on that one. All right, 6.
You're looking at Caroline's, and you guys are looking at,
We could live with current language with some addition regarding a description of what, past practices, what the standard of review would be for that. That's our motion.
let's see.
Maybe it'd be helpful if we described how the current language would work, how we would process something if there's a dispute about it. We certainly recognize that there are past practices, we can't put everything in the collective bargaining agreement. So we would expect that, everything that concerns wages, or monetary benefits would be in the collective bargaining agreement, and I think it is. So the current 6.1 addresses some other category of working conditions. Can you give me an example when I could get into a dialogue with you about how we would
that would be numerous, I think.
Just pick one out of that, I don't care.
Well, I know, but that, to me, that's not the best use of our time. This article, as you all know, kind of almost pulls everything together that you did. I just don't know why you went away from it. And what you're proposing is a wholesale change to it.
No, I'm proposing to explain what it means, is what my language is. And I don't mind leaving the current language as long as we add something explaining, what do we do when we have a situation where you assert, or we assert, you know, that there's a current, right or privilege or working condition? How do we resolve a dispute over that? That's all that's intended to do. So let's talk about how we practically work when it raises. You know, you've probably had it come up dozens and dozens of times in the past that somebody says, oh, well, we used to be able to do X and now we can't do X. You know, what's the point of entry on that to get that resolved? I just want to articulate how we get it resolved.
I don't know if this, I understand what you're asking. I'm not sure if this is the sole one for a grievance process. It may have appeared as part of a grievance process, because I see that when I see different contracts. You want them to find the whole kitchen sink, but usually, if it's a grievance that arises out of something that's current, you're saying that the burden of proof is on the parties asserting.
Yeah, but we're talking about another category. We're not talking about something that's addressed in the contract. I think the prevailing rights and maintenance of benefit article usually is something that is challenged through a ULP, an unfair labor practice, and not through a grievance. So,
Well,
here's,
but you asked, how would you start to resolve it? I think there's strong labor management relationship.
so would you have any problem with adding some language to that effect?
Why do we have to add language? Why does it always have to change? It hasn't been a problem, has it?
The purpose of the contract language is to anticipate problems and deal with
Okay,
them.
but in 10 years, there's never been a problem, presumably.
That's the last 10 years. And
Okay.
there have been lots of disputes here over lots of issues. You know, so why couldn't we just articulate that that's how it would be addressed?
So you want to
That
give us
first,
some language that,
first it would be addressed through labor management. And if unresolved through labor management, where would it go from there?
just something that's applicable, allow it to go through the grievance process. That's what they choose to use, but has this been I don't know your history, I know you've had issues on it, but has this been an article that's been relied upon as part of the grievance process? Is that why you're seeking to define it better?
Well, I think you could say that the dispute between the county and the union regarding the previous pay plan would fall into that category, when it was suspended.
Is this what the county or the union alleged, that this article has been violated?
No, there's no allegation in that. But I'm saying that if you could deal with the problem, you should articulate how you're going to deal with it.
But then you just say the wages wouldn't be included in this, because it's a separate article?
He asked me for an example, that's one I could think of.
I still know how you guys look at your head for the last 10 years. It's never been relied upon to bring the county to the
What's happened in 10 years? Laws change, cases change,
Sure.
opinions change.
Sure.
Nothing prevents the parties from reaching, you know, I could make the same argument that with respect to a wage article, what was good 10 years ago, let's just leave it the way it is.
Yeah, we're there. What do you mean? I think that if you wanna try to better qualify why you wanna seek a change in this article, I thought maybe it had been used in the past, or it's caused you guys some discomfort.
I think my language articulates what we need to do. If there is a dispute over it, if you assert that there's a past practice, you have the burden to establish it. When you establish it, you have to meet those 3 criteria. It has to be an unequivocal past practice, has to be substantially unvaried, and it has to be something that everybody would have anticipated would be continuing in nature. That's the legal standard. That's why I'm saying it in the contract. I don't understand your approach to, let's not change anything because it hasn't been a problem. Let's improve the contract.
I don't understand the approach, let's change everything.
We haven't changed everything.
Well,
We've
we're
set aside a lot of
attempting to.
stuff.
Yeah, but you guys, you came in here and opened up every single article, and you're still here about 20 on the table.
At the agree to this change and that one will be closed out.
Or agree to keep it the
What a
same.
bonehead.
If it's not gonna be something you get stuff, you can make it part of the deal like you said. If you have some other wording, this wording that you have is too high of a test, in my opinion.
If we're gonna have this same discussion over each of the remaining articles, or we propose to change to it, you tell me how we're gonna break through, other than us conceding our position on every point to reach an agreement. Give me the strategy for getting an agreement.
Maintain the contract you have in those areas where you have, and just address your salary. If that's the issue, that's what you budgeted for.
We're not prepared to do that.
Exactly. You're prepared to open every single article and just belabor this whole process.
We're down to a handful, we'd like to close that far.
All right, Stephanie, where are you at on that?
Yeah.
The evergreen clause, and then the one sentence, article, during the contract for 20 years.
We want it out, I think it's illegal.
What's illegal about it?
I think it violates the prohibition against provisions of collective bargaining agreement extending beyond the 3-year maximum under state law.
So there's no status quo provision in the state law?
There is a status quo provision, but there's not a provision regarding evergreen. If there's a provision for status quo, why won't you just live with that? Why do you need an evergreen clause?
Well, we are currently living under it.
Then why do you need the evergreen clause?
I think this codifies both parties' belief that the process continues.
I told you my position on it, I think it's illegal. It would be a mistake to leave it.
Article 9, the successor agreement.
We've explained our position on that, it's a provision of a contract that makes no sense in a county contract as opposed to a municipal contract. If you could explain to me how it would come into play, who the county fire service would merge into, or the provisions of this contract should be controlling.
Can they
Tell me
merge
what
it?
entity that
Can they
is.
merge
Good
the
point.
share?
She don't want to be a part of it.
I think they can, you have one down south that's part of the share.
So you want it in here for that purpose?
You asked me to give you an example, okay?
Okay, so your example is the sheriff.
Yeah, could they use the sheriff's department? Why do you want it out? Is it trying to get out of the fire business?
I told you, we don't think it needs to be in there because it wouldn't come into play.
Is it guaranteed that wouldn't happen?
During the term of the contract?
Period, ever. Evergreen.
Let's
He
see.
thought that was funny. That was a good one. I'm glad you laughed. Jim didn't give me that one, but that was a funny one. We just talked about 16. Any chance that the labor management group has finally met and got this one done, or are we still gonna? Because I had this one was a joint proposal and was okay, but we just haven't gotten to it. This is the uniforms.
The only issue is because the April's coming up.
It will have to be effective October 1, that's the fiscal year. They can't,
October 1, 2015
Yes.
would be the start.
So can we get this article done?
Take a look at this, I have language in there that says October 1st, 2015.
The county stopped providing uniforms if the contract expires.
I'm sorry.
The county stopped providing uniforms once the contract expired.
No.
So do we need language that says during the term of this agreement? Or could we start off with the county agrees to provide?
Sure. We can do that.
All right, now, I don't know, I know we've had several of these go back and forth, and you gave me one. And this was yours from the 15th, but I would hope that it captures what you guys have been working on from the very management standpoint. I don't know.
You gave us, I'm looking at version 1 from 2023.
Yes, sir.
That's the final proposal. Which begins with the clause during the term of this agreement.
Yeah, I know, but yours is in red, that's why it captured my eyes.
It's in the.
That's current language. This is version 2. Are these just one page or two?
Yeah, that's one.
The only change
No,
is-
this is 21, I need 20, that's 21. I'm sorry, that was confusing.
We haven't changed the date on it.
Okay. Let me take a look. That'd be nice for straight pages. Real good on pages. That was artful, but,
I think they're the same with the exception of the clause in 20.4 that says starting 2015.
so that needs to be October, what date do you guys need to chief? October 1st?
2015.
So we just had 2015. And I struck the first part of the 20.1 that says during the term, it just states the calendar year. Are we okay with that?
I think the language you want to add in 20.4 is after it says October 1st, but starting 2015 is then it's continuous as opposed to the payment October 1st, 2015, and no language about additional adjustments. Continuation, this is my thought.
Each member's, we're ordering, no later than the whole starting 25th, or later than,
Starting 2015.
okay, I'm okay with that. Did you have a question?
Where are you putting that concern?
After October 1st.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, just need to have two sides. He'll just do it. Let me see if he's got it.
you want to strike the term of this agreement?
I did on that one. So, you did on that one, so we'll do it.
On that? No on that?
Up to the commission. The chairman.
Top and bottom. All right.
Twenty? Okay, 21.
That's an extra. 21.
21, grievance process.
Mhm. I think the remaining issue here is how to deal with disciplinary appeals. In our proposal, it's a standalone article. The appeal would go to the personnel board. The personnel board's opinion would be final, as opposed to being a recommendation to the county administrator.
What article are you tying this to?
Discipline, Article 21, grievance and procedure. We have followed our disciplinary appeal. As our proposed language is that there would be a statement that disciplinary appeals would be handled pursuant to the following article.
And that's 22.
So that would be 22.
I don't mind having a board to handle matters and go through things or to be an initial step, but I still want them to be able to have their rights to get through the grievance and arbitration process. As I shared with you last time, your 22.3 conflicts with the grievance and arbitration process is out there.
Well, it doesn't conflict, it substitutes for.
Okay. Why do we not want a third party to make a decision should we get that far?
The board is a third party.
Independent third party.
The board is an independent third party.
Or arbitrator. Let me try that.
Because we think the board is a good, cheap substitute for that.
So it's a costly issue,
Certainly a cost issue.
and you won't have
It's
a
an
problem with that?
expedience issue as well.
Have you had a problem with that?
Cost of arbitration. I think cost
No,
of
I mean,
arbitration is a problem for both sides of the table.
I mean, as far as the, fees, some of these are drawn out longer than you like, or?
I can't think of an arbitration that hasn't, that I've ever dealt with, that didn't take longer than it should have. A lot of the time, even in contracts where we have a provision that the arbitrator has 30 days to decide, they ask for extension after extension after extension.
Yeah, we do have some steps in here where we went.
This puts the evaluation in the hands of the board, so you get multiple points of view balancing the outcome.
What's the makeup of the board you're proposing?
They're appointed by the Board of County Commissioners, each commissioner appoints one board member.
So the firefighter or the fire department has no say in the board?
The fire department does not, neither does the firefighter.
Oh, that's not even been pretty close.
The How's that not an independent third party? Neither the firefighters nor the administration has appointed the board.
You said the board appointed, so management appoints the board, they shouldn't decide.
And he asked about the fire department, that's the administration.
Yeah,
Look at the track record of the board, it has, doesn't fall in favor of management most of the time.
so you've been using this already?
The board has been used for non-fire bargaining unit employees.
Oh, for none.
What would stop if we were in the middle of a contract dispute and it was ugly, for that to be weighed into account? These appointed people. I understand what you're saying, I just think.
How do we protect against the bias of an individual arbitrator that comes to town from
Because we don't know them.
Timbuktu?
We don't know them, we can't whisper in their ears.
He's just independent.
He's independent, he's blind to the subject matter of the county until it's presented in front of him. I think the most fair thing we could do would possibly have someone who has no vested interest in this county take a look at it. And I can honestly believe if you were on this side of the table, you'd be arguing the same point back. I mean, I think it's pretty obtuse to think that I should put my career in the hands of a board that's appointed by members of the county commission and say, I'll take my chances.
If we give the union a slot on the board, an appointment on the board, if we have let's do it this way, because one's hard, because then you end up with six instead of five. If the union gets to have two appointees to the board, and it's a board of 7 instead of 5, does that alleviate some of your concern? It's a final decision, it doesn't go on as a recommendation. It's out of the hands of the administration.
But this is, you're talking for matters other than the list you give. I mean,
I'm talking about terminations, demotions, suspensions without pay, more than one normal workday.
So if I'm terminated, I get to go to a board and I'm arbitrated.
Right.
We're on the job. Maybe we take care of that, I don't know for sure.
Go state administrator.
Where do you think we are in this?
Well, is that something that we took care of with what the chief was explaining earlier, with the 2704 versus the 2912?
And 2912 would be the average using 23.2.
So your proposal on 410? This works with your proposed pay contract.
It does.
Okay. I see how that would work without proposed pay contract. Let's come back to that.
Just a thought, I'm anticipating what your concern might be in 23.2 tied to a pay plan that you haven't agreed to yet. The provision of the pay plan makes it clear that there's no reduction in the current hourly rate of pay of anybody. We'd be amenable to adding that clause, that narrative clause to 23.2 as well. It's a little redundant, but obviously, you don't have a pay plan contained in Article 23.
Yeah, and that might be something I'm sure that probably could be if we're using that, today. 26, annual leave. We're looking for an additional pools, and we're looking for an additional slot.
We projected the position hasn't changed.
Two positions, current language.
With the exception of, there's a couple, but, if you look at the two categories, 26.2 and 26.3, we believe at the end of the 20th year.
So you rejected the budget number of employees current total slotting to increase based on the size of the department?
Yes, for now. For this contract, yes.
Okay, 27.
I would say this, if you would agree with our language on annual leave, we would agree to add Article 26 to the reopening provision and revisit that each of the remaining 2 years of the contract. 26?
Okay. We just want to talk about this in the next few minutes.
Well, that would allow us to close out this article, but still leave the discussion open for the term of the contract.
We need to get this one by the way.
I understand. I'm not trying to belittle the point of labor management, but it seems like labor management sometimes gets stuck in a rut. And I know you meet quarterly, and I know you can meet more often if need be, but it seems like we're in a rut with labor management where sometimes it just completely pull the trigger and make it happen. I mean, a lot of slots for 430 personnel. I mean, we're good. How many people do we have in the field? For every day, minimum staffing. It seems. You ever tried to put in for vacation day?
You know, as somebody that views what you're doing from the outside, you know, that's my role. Your labor management committee tackles a lot more issues than I see tackled in most other agencies that I deal with. So that's a plus. I certainly agree with you with respect to there's some issues that we have talked about time after time that are with the labor management committee. That take some time to come through, more time than you would expect. So, you know, that's the plus and minus of the labor management committee. It's really functional. And I think yours is functional.
So what you're doing,
26 would be to, leave it the way we've got it, and then delete the thing about it end of the 20th year, accept our proposal, and, add it to the list of articles that could be reopened for year 2 and 3.
So current language is what you're proposing, basically, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much, you know, there's the reference to the, career service. I just cleaned up that language a little bit. We deleted the end of the 20th year. 26.4 is the status quo, that's the non-positions, slots. So that is status quo. More or less it is the status quo.
Okay, Article 27. Have any changes from your last position on this? You struck through 27.3 in your last proposal.
Right.
Any change here?
thoughts are running to, with respect to language, what could be used to deal with, the abuse of sick leave. Sure, we'd be open to some suggestions. This is our proposal on how to deal with it. Pain, no specific punitive steps with respect to it, but, just to establish some presumptions when it's being abused, when sick leave is being abused. But if you have some alternate language to deal with that problem, which is fairly common. 27?
Well, I mean, I have copies of
Uh-huh.
them.
Yeah, you would do this last time.
Yeah, 27 points.
26.2, 410, I think. So I have in my notes.
That was all new language. So we would do it.
Okay, Article 29.
You gonna come back with some thoughts on medical leave, dealing with abuse issues?
It's pretty dynamic to think we deal with sick people all day long, and I mean, it's pretty easy to level us as abusers. When my whole fire station just had the flu, because we deal with patients who have the flu. I mean, what are other options if we don't call in sick? I mean, what can we cover under workman's comp? I mean, I don't know what the law says on it, but if we all get the flu and we contract it from the patient, would that be counted as a sick leave?
Well, our focus is not legitimately needed or used sick leave for either the employee or, an employee needs to attend to family that's sick.
I remember you tried to define the types of abuse.
We're talking about a pattern of sick leave that's taken in conjunction with, as we've articulated here, holidays, Saturdays, Sundays, the day after payday, so forth and so on. You could come up with a long list, there's plenty of.
There definitely is, that's why I think it's kind of hard to just bottle them all up to just a few.
We're amenable to better language on that. Maybe one of your other contracts in your survey has better language, but there needs to be some standard. And the standard is not, we haven't even proposed a specific penalty. I think that would be variable. We're only talking about what a presumption would be. You could always rebut a presumption.
What was your reason for striking 27 June?
I didn't hear anything that indicated you were amenable to it.
You didn't strike 27
No, because 27-2 gets to the heart of our issue, which is abuse.
Well, my point is, I wasn't amenable to that, you didn't strike it. I just want to find out why you took out 27
You like 27-3?
Well, I'm thinking what you're saying and what you're asking for, you might be able to like marry that in a little bit better.
Well, why don't you marry it in with some better language that you could live with on 27-2?
To address your
And then you
issue.
want to add 27-3 back into it.
And that should address your issue of abuse.
Right, to set a presumption, a standard for presumption of abuse.
No, 27.3 going in, and you can use your annual leave, will that be counted as your sick time? If you're bringing annual leave. And D, you also talk about in the slide, you refer to it earlier, which is 26.4. Will that be counted towards your pattern of abuse?
No, these are the exceptions to the pattern of abuse.
So,
I understand what you're looking for. 29 is 29 that listed in the last time?
Yeah, we thought,
You asked us to break it out, and break it all out for you, and give it to you in subsections. You have a chance to review any of those subsections under that review.
Yeah, role in the career service manual. I thought we had agreed that we were simply going to reference the current version of that, rather than list the items on the contract. Plus, you have the additional language on FEMA, we're not amenable to.
Yeah, what we agreed to was you wanted to separate it, so we separated them in four separate pieces of paper. That was what we asked for, so.
If it tracks the career service rules, they don't have an issue with it. as my point. Does it?
I believe it's, let's look at the format because it's new here, but does most of this, with the exception of funeral, come from the funeral service manual?
Well, even funeral comes from the trade service, we just have that extra part.
Which part of this, with the subsection, is not going to be your
The part that
service?
applies to the
Give me a section.
29.27.
29.27. Shall be granted 3 additional days, is that what you're looking at? Tell you what, when we come
Let's
back-
start, yeah, well, that whole added line section is a new part that only applies to death of a spouse, father, mother, or child.
Okay,
Which is adding additional days time off.
and the other subsections are in the manual?
The only part that's changed, the other,
Those are separate ones, those are separate sheets, are those in the manual?
the only change in conference leave is we added the part for the child relationship now.
Let's do this, and we can make any copies if we're gonna be taken, and highlight whatever.
It is, it's all in there.
Because I have 2 versions of the same day. So I have version 2 of 29 dated 2/25, which is one of 2 pages. And then I have version 2 of 2/25, which is 4 pages. So I'm
Yeah,
not
that
sure
should be
which.
broken, is it 4 separate pages with each part?
The
Four
first one
separate
we need
pages
to-
of what you should be looking at. But what I don't have him do is I don't have.
Yeah,
him
it's just
identify
broken
what's
apart.
new or different from the manual.
Thank you.
So we'll compare that with the manual and put a highlight on it.
Were you okay with our, I don't know whether you incorporated it or not, but were you okay with our language, our suggestion on extending, the funeral leave with the use of other leaves, including union leave time, as long as the president of the union approves it?
I think we did talk about that, and I think that was the issue.
I think it was.
And that might even be in a separate version that you requested.
Let me see the part about the union leave time.
Neither one of those.
Well, it says, or any normal leave available to them.
That sounds like it's referring to, the classic categories, not union leave time. You're okay with the articulated union leave time? You control it unilaterally anyway. It says, our proposal says with the latter, union president's consent.
Yeah, he can just include that in there.
Okay.
I mean, just spell it out.
Unless you wanna just reserve union leave time for just union business. It seemed odd to me that you would suggest we should provide more leave, but not want to
In those
provide
cases,
more leave.
because it's actually pretty common, it's starting to become more common. When you're dealing with public safety professionals, and people treating people, and they're dealing with the death of a spouse or a child, it's just getting a little extra comfort before they gotta deal with the problem.
Yeah, we're fine with additional time. The question is, where does it come from? And all we have proposed is that in addition to the traditional sick leave, annual leave, shift swap, that you would add union leave time
You don't match it?
to do it.